have to do this one from home tonight, so I just want to make sure it's working. All righty, away we go. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 29th of 2025. As I always warn you, one of the hazards of having me as your guide is I actually do the job. So I am sitting on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, which is an hour and a half away from where I just had a listing presentation at 3:30, and it's 7 o'clock, and I even cooked dinner, Alexis, and so I do it all. So when they tell you they don't have enough time to do it, you can do it all. You just have to get after it. So tonight, let me bring this up first. We continue on in the profitable real estate agent plan, but I do like to, at the beginning of each call, especially while people roll in a little bit late, just reiterate what the structure of this whole class is about, why we do it this way, and how you can take advantage of it. And really what I would say is this is a strategic call. And I wish somebody early on in my career, many 25 years ago, had sat me still and said, listen, you not only need a plan, you need a strategic plan that then leads to you doing your tactics. Because most real estate agents, like I did at the time, just think tactically. So I joked to the guys at Realty Executives that hired me. There were 4 gents that owned the company. And they said, what's your business plan? We love you, but what's your plan? And I said, well, you don't have one? I guess give me 2,000 business cards, a lamp, and a desk to sit down at, and I'll bring the Army helmet and my work ethic. And we all had a good laugh. And that's literally how I started. If you sneeze the words together, real estate, you had one of my business cards in your hand. If you came to an open house, I can see myself in one house running upstairs to the 3rd floor and downstairs to the basement to keep working to prospects who are very much interested. And that's just chaos. And I don't want you to have to live like that. You don't have to. There's a better way to run this business. And I've learned that over the years. It starts with this real strategic approach. So the first week we talk about, well, how do you become this profitable real estate agent who understands that they're a strategic business person? Well, there are some real what to do's in that section there where we talk about Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics. There are many books that I have read. We also talk about there are many books I read, but that's the best how to program your self-image to become anything, let alone a self-made in business in real estate that's profitable, right? The second part was we talked about the things that are very important to understand how you are wired to begin with, because while you're trying to get yourself to become a profitable real estate agent business owner, you have to understand how you were wired from the start. Dr. Marstens, yeah, couldn't remember his first name. Dr. Marstens created the DISC personality profile. He also created the lie detector test. So that is a really uncannily amazing test that will tell you what personality type you are naturally. D, dominant, I, influential, S, steady, and C, compliant. You actually need to be all of them to be a profitable real estate agent, but you don't come like that naturally. So there will be parts of your personality you have to work on. Then once you have that idea for who you have to become, and you'll become that over many years and time, but it's a good starting point. You start now as a business person because this is a business, and the first things first. That is your top line goal. You need to have a revenue goal. And this is before splits, no matter where you're at for a brokerage and all that good stuff. You need a financial goal. And we talked about how very simply to set that, to really set you up to be profitable. There were some very particular things in week 2 we talk about. Week 3, okay, great. I have all this gross revenue money that I want to make. But what am I going to say when I'm in competition to do business? So in week 3, we talk about how to develop a true unique selling proposition in a service business where everybody seems to be doing the same thing. And I reveal in that call very specifically how we at Griffin and the Realty Classroom, those are my 2 sister companies, how we developed 2 packages of information, and we refer to that as our burgers and fries, right? Because again, being strategic is a concept I learned from Michael Gerber, and you try to be strategic as if you're trying to teach it to a whole bunch of people like a franchise. So we refer to the seller and the buyer package as burgers and fries. That's week 3. Week 4 is okay, who am I going to give this to? Well, you'd probably say in your mind, if you were just being tactical and not strategic, anybody who will sell a house or buy a house with me, I'm there. Sure, I get that, and probably true, especially early in your career. However, it's not the best direction. The best direction is to understand And by the way, week 3 and 4 are very core marketing fundamentals. So I don't care how little or how much marketing training you have. You really need to understand in our business how a unique selling proposition as a marketing concept plays a role, and how matching that up to the concept of marketing avatar or ideal client, right? And that's what you're looking for. So we got into demographics and how we could really easily determine the demographics, and relate that, by the way, to the financial goal. A lot of people think demographics are, certain ethnic groups or whatever. It doesn't mean that at all. It actually means geography in our case. Like, where's the geography within which we want to do business? Who actually owns that property? And how much is it? Because to be profitable, my advice always and consistently every week, no matter what we're talking about, is you must learn how to list properties from people you don't know at or above the median price in the demography / geography within which you want to do business. But then there's a psychographic component. There's so much training out there that I think is erroneous when it comes to scripting and conversations that really overtrains on overcoming objections. I'm not really against some training in that area, but it's certainly not primary. And so I always get a little bit worried about all of this training that just, you're not listening to somebody, you're just trying to attack them and change their motivation for them or change their reason. And it's absurd. That's just not logical. So we train a little bit about avatar psychographics. Getting a real why from somebody and a high motivation creates a real good base for the avatar. So they're within the geography, at or above the median, have a why and a good motivation. Week 4. Week 5, there's just so much whining about leads in our business when they're always hiding in plain sight, especially listing leads, from expireds to probates, FSBOs, professional referrals, buyer leads, open houses every weekend. I will do 4 open houses this weekend, and there will be more leads that come in. And again, as a listing agent, whether or not they're working with an agent, they're leads to buy the house, right? So they're hiding in plain sight. Stop whining about them, acting like they're scarce, because otherwise you'll end up just chasing internet leads. And woo, boy, is that an ugly, slippery slope. Content marketing gets into social media, because now, you start to get into another part of this is, okay, we've got some of the basic marketing so that when we meet these leads, we're there, but how do we get the word out per se? Well, there's just so much misunderstood about how to use social media in this industry, if you ask me in my not so humble opinion, that I switch gears on you and I start with an understanding of the basic of core content. I cannot tell you how many times this week alone on my one-on-one coaching clients, who are all top producers, I just pound away that they have got to get their market update completed at the end of each month, because it becomes a core piece of how to really be prepared. And then we talk about buyer and seller tips and other types of content, but really typically it's heavy calls about the newsletter and being ready. Week 6. Week 7, we get into it. We say, okay, all of this is going to eventually get you to the point where you are talking to people. And you do need to understand the act of prospecting and how to turn a lead into a prospect when they meet that avatar, especially, right? So when they're in the right area and they have a property above the median that they want to sell, and they have a real reason why. It's their own reason why, not yours. And they have a motivation at a level of 10. You need to know how to make an offer. You need to know how to make an offer properly. So you need to know the power of reciprocity when you're making an offer, and then that exchange of value to get what you need to, get out of them, which is that prospected relationship. So, and understanding the context within which you meet each type of person and how that changes what you say slightly, but fundamentally sticking to the base, right? That's week 7. Week 8, here we are, right? So after all that work, if you think about it, and so if you came on this call right when it began, if you think about how much work it takes to arrive at the creation of a prospect, and then to hear from me, a longtime doer of this thing, still to this very day, like I said, I'm huffing and puffing literally after an hour and a half drive back from Boston, cook dinner, sit down. I do this job, okay? And what I'm telling you is that it took us a lot of work to create that prospect. And the minute we had a listing presentation where I could go out and sink it in, maybe not turn it into a client, which I didn't tonight, but I came, very close to a date with which we will become in a client relationship. But I'm protecting that prospect from any of the wolves, including my own neglect, that might lose me that business. Today was a doubly good day too, because we fell apart a little bit on one of our past clients who becomes a new prospect, right? So just because you have a past client, there's no certainty they will relist with you or list the next property with you. You must protect that relationship. And Laura and I had a little bit of a letdown on this subject tonight. Laura's my client care manager. We work very much hand in hand on every account. And we kind of let down, and he listed with somebody else. But quickly what he found out was they're not us. And they pissed him off pretty quickly. So he fired them before they even came out, called me and said, I don't know why I did that, but let's do this, right? And I didn't ever, make him feel bad about that. Never really even said anything to him. We just kind of thought, okay, we missed a little thing here. We did our thing. But I said, let's see what happens. So now here we are listing it. But it's a wake-up call for all of you that here I am, the coach, the trainer of this system, and I'm telling you, I still make these mistakes. So we are constantly always trying to stitch a safety net beneath how we run our business, and that is a strategic safety net. Because tactically, Laura and I were going back, and I'd been out to the house, and I'd done an analysis, and I talked to Ed a couple times on the phone, but there was a window of time where the wolf got through the fence and ate the chicken, right? Because we got a little bit lax when we were close to clamping down and getting this listing. We just got a little bit lax. So what did we do? We talked about it, and we found out that when I stopped talking to him and put it back on Laura to follow up, because we thought we were just going to get the listing agreement, and her job was to follow up, she couldn't get him on the phone and didn't tell me that. And we realized that we had done that a couple times before too. And like, okay, so from now on, one of the tactical ways that we're going to protect that is the minute you feel something's off and you're not able to get a prospect back on the line, you book a call on my daytime or my calendar for me to also reach out to him. And I will see that, and I will know we are both trying to get him because we haven't heard from him. And we just did that today with another big past client who, again, like, he was a past client. He got remarried to somebody else. She knew us. She loved us, we thought. And then all of a sudden we got a call one day that she wasn't going to go with us. And so I fought for it. I got out there. I resurrected the relationship. And I'm like, oh, hell no, we're not taking our eye off of them. And by the way, Laura, get that one signed. So we did. So we're in a client relationship. But I was calling to make sure that they were paying attention to us. And by the way, before I get into the slideshow here, it's interesting how all of these things will come together for you if you follow them. So for example, while I'm protecting my buyers, I said, hey, great news. Sellers up here, prospect sellers. I'm saying great news. The market still goes, and the average price is, they cut me off and they said, we know, we watched your video. So going back up into content marketing, it's exactly why I say the market update is critical to create that as a core piece of content every month. I do a small video around that. And if somebody reminds me, I'll go to my blog and show you what that looks like. And we send that out to our entire database, obviously past clients, prospects, clients, everything. And they saw it and they consumed it. And that keeps them up to date. And it reminds them how professional I am. So this becomes an orchestrated strategic approach for this whole conversion process. Okay. All right. So let's get into this week's slideshow. Let me show this tab. Hopefully you are what you are seeing. Oops, what happened there? Hopefully you are seeing, I have the wrong one. You're seeing the wrong one. Bear with me. Like I told you, start a little discombobulated. So you should be seeing, are you guarding your prospects against the wolves? If you're not, somebody can scream and yell at me, but I'm going to start this slideshow. And as you know, I go through a fill in the blanker. So what I'd like you to do is always try to have a little notebook there. I'm not saying that you have to fill in all the blanks and you have to go through this. But if you have a key concept that clicks on a light switch in your head, that's a firefly. Okay. You need to capture that firefly on paper because you will forget it. So each week, if there's just one key concept that you can really latch onto, that could be something that you monetize for a very long time. Write it down. Okay. That's the most important thing you could do here. All right. So let's start up here and we will get going. So are you guarding your prospects against the wolves? And by the way, I told you the biggest, baddest wolf could be your own neglect. So developing an answer to the question is essential. So we're going to use this worksheet, as we always do each week, to teach you how to protect your prospects. So this starts with this concept of CRM, okay? We need a place where we can protect prospects. And now take it from somebody who has coached top producers for a very long time and agents of all levels of sophistication, from brand new to been in it a long time. Everybody suffers from the same problem when it comes to protecting prospects. If there was 1 week of the 12-week course, I could just say, that's the problem. It's this week. So that starts to beg a little bit of, okay, what do I do? Well, the first thing that you really need to do is understand a CRM. And what the best working definition of is that, of that is this. It's a contact relationship manager. Because I had heard many different definitions of this. I had heard client relationship manager. I had heard customer relationship manager. But I think words really matter in our business. We throw them around loosely and we don't really understand what they mean. So the reason I really embrace contact relationship manager is because that's what a database is. It's a place to store what? Contact information, right? That's what it is. I want to contact you. So I have your mailing address. I have your telephone number. And I have your email address, so that across multiple mediums of expression and communication, I can contact you. So that's the best definition in my context for you to understand. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm telling you, you're going to manufacture something in the service business. You have to see it from above, like a manufacturing plant. And that manufacturing plant, in my estimation, is producing a happy past client who becomes an asset of the business, who is likely, if we do all this correctly, to refer us and someday themselves repeat. That's your accelerant. Because if you think about the front end of a business, that's the hardest part, referred to as new business development. And that means you're trying to go out there and do business with new people that you do not know. And so this whole course is built to teach you how to do that. And not someday after you've done rentals and then you can, all that BS that this industry perpetuates. You should learn how to do it today, because there is a way to do it today if you're brand new. I know the Ellis twins usually come on here and they just got their license recently and joined Griffin. And so I told them, you need to go today to open houses. You're going to get skunked at a lot of them. Somebody won't come, but something will happen. And they knocked down their first deal, even though it was kind of we were hunting. And I would say they put a limp, right, ladies, right? They put a limp on the buyer, and I was able to wrestle it down for them. And we got at least some commission versus none on the buy side. So it was great because they took action today, executing this plan. So now going forward, as they go out there, they understand a little bit better about how to really grab that contact and start to work it into a prospect, right? So, but they need a place to put it. And that's what CRM is. For all our Griffin agents, we actually don't get them into some sophisticated software because they'll never use it. They'll never use it. It will be confusing. And in fact, I don't even use my Infusionsoft personally. I use the free software that my agents use because I can see my contacts who are most important to me, right? So this becomes a really important pre-concept before we talk about protecting prospects, as I'll define them, right? So what is the primary advantage of using a CRM? Well, the CRM helps you segment your list of leads versus prospects versus clients, amongst other things. We have closings, right? That we have well, let me explain what these are. These are labels for contacts. So remember, everybody in your CRM is a contact, and a fully formed contact, meaning the best way that you can set that up is to have all the contact information. You have full names of all decision makers. You have the mailing address, full mailing address. You have a good email address for all decision makers, and you have good phone numbers for everybody. That's perfect, right? That's what you have. So you could jump somebody in, but very typically, let's just take the new business development concept and let's talk about, as we talk about leads, let's talk about expired leads. So in our case, we would go out and we would use a company like a Vulcan 7 to get us information. Then we do a lot of cleansing of those leads. There are certainly those that are well below our median price that we're not going to target as a company. And so we'll clean those out. We'll also make sure that we have the best data that we can before that gets put into the database. But when it gets put in there as a contact, it now needs a label. And that label is lead when we don't know why they want to sell or buy, and we don't know how motivated they are to do so inside the next, preferably 6 months, maximally 12 months. I had to make business decisions at some point as to our capacity or capability to stay in touch with all of this information and protect it from our own neglect or mismanagement. Mismanagement is really the thing that most of us are guilty of because we don't know what we don't know. So it's a label. Okay. Now, you don't even need a digital CRM to do this. You could literally go out to Staples today. And this is, I learned this technique in college, which seems like the, Stone Age ago. But when I teach my boys there who are still in college, I used to have these wire racks. And I would have wire racks for each class so that I could put information in an order. So if you could imagine a wire rack for leads, and to the right of that is a wire rack for prospects and a wire rack for clients. And we just stop there. Forget about the closings and the past clients. I'm just going to take these three because I refer to this in the model as the conversion module. Okay. The conversion module inside the CRM concept. And what that means is that contact is going to ride along that assembly line. Again, we're making it akin to a Henry Ford or an Elon Musk assembly line, whatever you can envision. We're going to move that contact along that assembly line. But at each stage, if it makes it to the next stage, okay, I'll talk about that in a second. If it makes it there, its label is going to change based on what somebody I used to coach said this word, disposition is, right? And I liked that. Because with the lead, we're not really even in well, we might in some cases be in zero relationship. If it's a referral, don't ever take those for granted, by the way. I can't believe how many people say, well, I'm by referral only. Okay, well, what does that mean? You don't even have a relationship with that person that's been referred. So it's no different from a cold expired or a cold FSBO or a cold probate. There is no difference. Every one of them is a lead because you have not done anything to, number one, make them an offer so they'll open up, and number two, qualify them to see that they're actually an avatar who has a why and a motivation so that they can leave the disposition of lead and enter the disposition of prospect, hopefully with you, if you make the right offer. See, that's the tough thing here, that everybody just kind of assumes relationship is an offer and just working for somebody is an offer. And that's not true. And that's why when we talk about the unique selling proposition package, we start off by packaging a sample of what? Our service. Let that sink in about what a unique selling proposition and service is when it's an information product. We taught you in, what did I say, week 3? We taught you in week 3 how to take what you're probably already talking about. How's the market? Productize that. Make it a one-pager, right? What's selling around me? Productize that. Print it all out with pictures, details, and a map so they can figure it out themselves. Well, what are you going to do? Productize that. Make that a 7-step plan and a 6-step plan for buyers, right? So we have all of this product so that when we know we have a lead who meets us at least demographically and geographically, right? We can make the offer that says, hey, if you have the context to sell, which I see you do because you were referred by somebody, or I see you do because you expired, or I see you might because you're a probate and you might want to get rid of the property. I see that you are because you're a FSBO. That's context. Okay. So we're meeting them where they're at as a lead with that context, and we make the offer. So I'd like to give you some information to help you sell your house the next time, to help you sell yourself this time, to help you sell yourself by yourself, right? All you're doing is changing the context to make the offer to the lead, to turn them into a prospect. And the prospecting actually happens. And the reason I'm making such a huge deal of it in this round, I'm realizing that I've skipped through this a little bit too quickly and not talked about how critical it is to ensure you've actually made a prospect before you worry about protecting them. Because I could teach you how to protect prospects all day long, and you're not even making real ones. And then you're saying, well, it doesn't work. They went away anyway. Nope, you never made a real one. You have to make a real one by making a real offer of a sample of your productized service. That's all that package is, because you would continue to update them on the market as a service. You would continue to show them what continues to sell around their property. You would continue to give them tips and details. So all those three pieces become productized. You give it to them and say, here's a sample of me doing all this, organizing it for you, giving it to you, putting it in the right order, giving you some insight on it. I'm giving you this massive free sample so that you'll open up and tell me, why are you thinking about selling it? And right now, as we're speaking, how motivated are you, right? Because that productized piece of your information is going to be relevant to someone probably up to about 12 months. I mean, obviously the data is aging the minute you give it to them, but not the evergreen 7 steps. They could work on that over the next course of the 12 months, and 12 months seems to go by like that. So all of this is like the diligence and the self-discipline to turn that lead into a prospect. That's what this is all about, right? So that segmentation can only happen if you have a good database. And that can be as simple as wire racks, or for all you Griffins, that stupid simple spreadsheet that we give you, the Contact Pipeline Manager, right? Which I use every day. So what is the most critical list segment to make your business predictable and sustainable? Well, of course, drum roll, it's to maintain a clean list of prospects. So I just went through that, right? So you are going to realize over time that if you go and you do the financial model, right? So if you go look at that financial model, that we talk about, and you put your gross up there, and all of you that are Griffins or TRCers, you have these two spreadsheets, okay? So what you need to do is do your GCI goal so you see that median price and you know what's what. So that when you go do an open house, you try to prospect people at the median price or above. Of course, you might go a little bit below it, but if you're always targeting below, you're creating a tough list of prospects to meet your financial goals, right? Now, when you meet a prospect, don't assume that you've done anything to prospect if you're winging it and you got their information. And I have them, they're getting properties from me that sold around them. Okay, great. So can anybody else do that? I'm teaching you how to take the time to do something nobody but you will do, which is productize somebody, give it to them, and then set up some of the follow-up, right? So you have got to prune the list of prospects. But my point about the connection to the financial part of it was, you don't need many prospects over the course of a year who turn into ideal clients to reach your goal. I know you think you do, because most real estate agents can't stop talking about, I need more leads. No, you don't. You wouldn't even know what to do if I flooded you with leads. You would just drown in them, and you try to scrape the cream off the top to get the one or two that bubbled up, and you go home every night, and if the phone rang, there'd be a shock through your system. So trust me, chaos on piles of leads is exactly what you don't want. A nice clean list of leads or a target to find a few prospects that can make it into your private club and maintain that clean list is everything to your success. By the way, this changed my personal business life here. I have tripled. When I was a head coach in another program long ago, we just couldn't stop that junkie mentality of leads. We couldn't stop it, right? And so I used to sell probably like an average 350, 360, somewhere in there. Now, of course, because of COVID and inflation, some of this is because of that. But let's just assume some of it's there on the triple. But I literally went from 350 and ended the last 36 months averaging $1,071,000 for my particular sales, right? And I never would have been able to believe that was true unless I just sat still and I really started to calculate Where's the median price? Why am I not doing those deals? I've got to get the listings before the buyers. I actually stopped doing any kind of buyer lead generation altogether many years ago, other than open houses and referred business, right? That's it. And I've been able to triple my average sale and become way more profitable, way more time managed. So I'm telling you this from personal experience, okay? It's like so exciting to be able to share that with you, but you have to believe me. If you don't execute this simple stuff, it will not happen for you, right? So let's define that prospect. I've said it multiple times, but I'm going to spell it out in front of you here. A prospect has a real reason to move and a high level of motivation to do so in the next 6 to 12 months maximum. And here's a little extra. They are open to your providing them with property and market updates. Okay. So once we've given, so for example, let me use the open house. So I get an open house buyer that came to me back in October, right? Really nice high-end property in this building that I've had a lot of success in, that originally started with an expired. Everybody sees me doing open houses ad nauseum. They're like, who's that lunatic? Hire him, right? So this person comes in and she's with a bunch of other people seeing the property, and she likes it, and I can tell she's serious. So I zero in on her because I'm actually doing 2 open houses at once, 2 different floors. I'm running back and forth like the old days, right? But I see her and I zero in. So I spend some time. I'm saying this gal's live. She wants my attention. So I zero in on, and she brought her friend with her. And so we go through the property, we go over it. And I said, by the way, let me give you this package of information, right? To help you navigate this process, because she tells me, I've been looking for 3 years, but I think I'm ready. And she really opens up. She's a divorcee. She's got 2 dental practices. This is her getaway. So I can see we're really trying to get there with her, right? And we hit it off, right? It was just a professional conversation. So she goes to lunch with her girlfriend, and she's got this package in hand, and she said, listen, we'd like to come back and see it. I said, great news. Come on back. I'm still here. But immediately on Monday, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this gal's staring at putting an offer in on my 3 point, whatever we were asking at 3.6. She's looking at doing this, but she's for real. And we just hit it off. So this is a real buyer prospect. So I said to Laura, immediately reach out to her and just touch base and, send her some other things. Say, listen, we put this in your package, but here's some other stuff that's available. And she was savvy. She's like, yeah, I've already seen this one, but this. She calls me that Wednesday and said, listen, I see that you have this back as an open house this weekend. I would like you to show me 2 others, and then we'll see yours again. So even when it's a short time frame, I'm telling you, take advantage of that prospected moment. If you have brought these packages to the open house, or you understand their power as the initial prospecting activity, I'm telling you, it tips people so quickly into at least listening to you, because nobody does this. Do not wing it ever. Every prospect gets a physical package of information as taught in week 3, right? I'm just telling you, do not cheat me and worse yourself by trying to cherry pick what makes you comfortable here and what doesn't. This is all common sense based. It's logical, and it's empowering to the people you share it with, right? So now the protection part. How do you protect them now that you have them? So let's get into this. You must communicate with them at a frequency that matches their timing, and follow up with your market insight that speaks to their specific interests. So what I told you, let me just go back a slide here for a second, okay? So imagine now someone's been prospected and a package has been given. I just coached, I've known Abraham and Donnie Cohen for a very long time, 15 years or so. And it was just today that it was really sinking in with them about how to protect prospects. And again, it starts with, that CRM, where it's like, listen, I know you use Follow-Up Boss and you use Monday and you use this. I know you're all CRM experts. No, you're not, because I could come in and look at your disastrous setup. So use this sheet I give them, which just clearly displays these people in front of them. And then that prospect is worth $35,000. That one's worth $50,000. These guys live in LA, so these are real numbers, right? Now, You gave a package. You might have even gone to the house and done the analysis and given them tips on what to do and what not to do. But there's a gap. Okay. So for the context of teaching how to protect people, there's a gap between that moment in time and when they'll actually make a decision. That's when the wolves start circling. So what do? You use content to stay in front of them. So the content marketing is that one-page market newsletter that I teach very early on in this course, a one-page market newsletter, okay? That has to be produced every month, and that needs to be ready to go to these prospects at the beginning of the month. Now, as a level of sophistication, I also have a script where I'll do a video reading it and give a little bit of insight in it and put that out on social media too. So I could send them a physical, well, first of all, let's start digital. I could send them automatically the video of me talking so they see my face again, and the attachment, of the, a PDF of the market update. Now they've got that digitally. But also specifically for them, they want to sell that house. So I would have put them also into the multiple listing service. So automatically, every time something sells around them, like the package I did, because I look back and look at it, they'll have it in real time. This just sold this week. This just sold this week. So a combination of getting them a market update plus real-time property updates, that's digital. So physical to those things, digital. However, what we really learned over time, right? What we really learned is we better also send that physically. But at what frequency? So let's stay with content before we talk about phone calls, right? We have to figure out in that 6 to 12 months time frame. Obviously, if somebody's doing something in 30 days, you're on them on whatever date you're supposed to call them back, right? And they're getting this stuff in real time, or you're just forcing it to them if they're inside 30 days. 30 days to 6 months, you're making a determination that minimally, you are going to send this information digitally the way we already talked about, but also either once a month or every other month. Only every other month if they're further out. I would say 6 to 12 months, maybe every other month you're sending a physical package. The rest of the digital stuff you can send monthly, right? And in real time. But the other stuff you're going to send physically, because what made you unique in the beginning was giving them a physical package of information. So you want to send that physical. And what that does is it now gives you something to say. Because when I always quip with my coaching clients, what are you going to say if you're not sending more information? Because you sent the original package 2-3 months ago. What are you going to say when you pick up the phone? What's your script? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? And in its essence, that's what it is, because you're winging it. Because you don't understand all the way back to ground step number 1. You don't understand it was the giving of the data organized by you to them that mattered the most. Now, you don't have to keep giving a 7-step plan every month because they have it. It's evergreen. But the dynamic changes in the market statistics, as well as the property information, that's dynamic, right? But you're making it easy to consume. So remember, we have that mailing address. That's why a contact with a mailing address, we can mail them. A good email address, we can email them. But now we pick up the phone and say, right? And we have a script for this, but I'm just going to give you its essence. Donnie, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because I told you I'd be sending you market updates and property updates digitally, and then that once a month I'd mail them as well. Have you been receiving those? So all I have to do now is make sure I'm feeding the prospects. It's like going over to the sheep pen and saying, how's everybody in here doing? Everybody like eating in here? Everybody looking good? Yep, you're growing some wool. Everything's looking good. It's no different. It's the same thing. You're feeding your prospects to keep them liking you, respecting you, and seeing you as the logical choice. You don't feed them, they start looking to see if they can hop the fence. You don't feed them, they start making noise, and the wolf starts circling around, burrowing under the fence. So that's the analogy why I say protecting your prospects from the wolves, especially your own neglect, right? So now you can say, great, yep, I'm getting them super, super helpful. Yeah, just want to let you know, we sent you that latest market update. I couldn't even believe it myself. The average price just ended at $1,074,000. and the median price is 765. So we're still looking pretty good. Inventory is limited. I just had one of those conversations today, by the way, right? Inventory is limited. By the way, we're still on track for the spring. Yep. I'm going to be up there February. I'll be done probably by like February 26th, right? Actually, that happened tonight, February 26th. February 14th was my prospect who's already signed the client contract, but I still treat them like a prospect. They were very specific. We're coming up. What do you think we should get out of there first? Well, I said this and this. That's my insight. So we're having this insight conversation, right? I'm coaching them. And then the other guy, I walk out of that house and he goes, I'm going to Brazil. You know, I like you. I like to do business, but I won't be back to the 26th. I said, good. We're going to quickly send you some stuff on the buy side because that was your problem. So, you know, we're giving some insight as we're building this relationship. We're setting up the next action step for them. Now, people ghost you because you're just not the most important thing in their lives every time you call or every time you send something. And some things happen, plans change, whatever. You have to be patient to continuously follow up like this, right? Now, what's the best strategy for building loyalty? Well, like I just said, never rely only on digital delivery of property and market information. Always include regular direct mail and phone follow-up. That's what I just talked about, right? Okay. Let's just stay on this side. All right. That's enough of me tonight. So let me stop sharing this. And again, one of my favorite topics and really critically most important. Let me come over here to see if we have any Too Funny Farminology. Yes, it's the only way I can get to you, Andre, right? Talk about animals. Do we have any questions tonight from anybody? We don't have as big a crowd as we usually have, but I see my loyalists out in Washington. Welcome, all you Cantu Griffins. Happy to have you here tonight. Can I answer any questions? Or Chelsea, Melanie, my superstars in the making? Any comments or questions from anybody tonight? Yep. No, I got you. No, I got you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first thing is if you go, have you looked up rentals on MLS? Okay. Okay. So you see that they're available and they're shared that way, right? Okay. So the next thing is to figure out, as you know, everything's in the Cape Cod MLS is a little bit chaotic. Do you have any access to MLS PIN? Okay. So you want to look at some rentals in MLS PIN because that will give you a depiction of, you know, compensation offered. Just get used to what the compensation offered is for a 12-month lease. So you know, you have an idea for what the offer of compensation is to you because that's the most important thing. But essentially, if rentals are shared the same way that they are with property listings, then they would be an MLS. So instead of looking for sales, you're looking for rents. Did you do any of that yet? In MLS? Hold on. In MLS? Okay, okay, okay. Yep, good, keep going. So you saw properties that were available. Yes. Same way. Same way. You're over yeah, don't overthink it. Just say to the client, say, "Listen, I'm happy to help you find a rental." So just proceed the same way. But why I'm cutting to the chase is you wanna know what kind of fee to ask for when you bring somebody, right? Well, it's a rental contract, right? It's a rental contract. So, it's a good question since I don't do any rentals whatsoever. It's a good question at the MLS level as it relates to, fee, right? Uh, and disclosure, because you're not really giving a buyer disclosure. Here's what I would recommend. Let's cut out all the middle people. Call MLS tomorrow and ask. Yeah, just ask them. Say, how do the new forms relate to rentals, if any? And they'll point you to the forms on Flex. Yep. Yep. And then let me know what you discover so we can just review it a little bit to make sure you know how to pursue fee there too. Hmm. By the way, how was the inventory for rentals? Did you see enough? Yep. 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 Wow. Wow. Did we skip class on Avatar with you? Yeah. 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 You're gonna have a tough time getting them a renter too. So just before you, yeah, yeah, well, I mean, you're almost at fourth down, and I'm going to call a punt at some point in time because as much as you have that nice altruistic heart, and we are people for others, as you know, you'll do your best. But if it's unrealistic, you have to not waste your time, right? So, yep, cool. That's a mess, though. That sounds like more. That sounds like more like one of your EMS calls than it does a real estate. Good, good. All right, all good, good. Okay, what else do we have? Yeah. Yep. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yep, yep, yeah, yep, that's right. And it happened. Yep, 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 right, yep. Well, because the law of reciprocity is being reinforced over and over and over. You're nurturing the relationship through reciprocity. Yeah, yeah, bravo. Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. All right. All right, last call? Okay. Uh Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, buddy. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Oh, that's a, that's a nice educational base from which to, to launch from. My son actually did a year at a postgraduate high school year where he learned the Socratic method. A lot of very old school English based, New England based schools have the Socratic method. Right, ask that question, and have that, have them have that cathartic moment. So certainly that's a method. I would say that's a tactical way to get it out of somebody, to ask that question. Hey, it looks like a beautiful house. Why were you trying to sell it? And to try to get them to talk about that thing that's important to them. Sure. I would say though, if I'm going to give some credit somewhere where I heard the term permission marketing, was Seth Godin, Godin. Seth Godin. He's been a longtime marketer. Dan Kennedy's the guy that probably affected me the most, only because my mentor, that was his marketing mentor. But Seth Godin has written a lot of nice Purple Cow. I forget all the names of the books, right? But if you go to Seth and you Google Seth Godin permission marketing, see if you can find a video of him talking about it. It's really hiding in plain sight, Andre. It's not some esoteric concept of having permission marketing, but nobody believes it works. So combining the concept of getting permission to market to them starts with a good offer. If I make you a good offer and of information for free as a sample, if I make my free sample so dang overwhelming, I'm probably going to get permission from you to follow up, assuming you're my avatar. You have a real reason why, you have a high motivation, and you'll engage me because you're not engaged with somebody else, right? Those are very critical things that have to exist for permission marketing to even begin, right? You can't commence into a permission based marketing setup unless there's a fit, right? And that's a good thing, though, because you want to hear that no. And we hear a lot more no's than we will ever hear yeses, right? It's just that's the numbers game. But there are so many people out there. So when Melanie was talking about, I know, but they came to us and we want to help. It's near and dear to my heart to help anybody that comes to us. But then there is the point where people just aren't a fit. You can't help them. It's not, you can't do it. As much as you feel bad for somebody that came to you, feel obligated, whatever it is, you can't help them. They just don't fit. So I think permission marketing, yes. Socratic methodology to figure that out. I think somewhere in there, those two concepts fit. Yes. Interesting. You should pick up on it. But I think really understanding that avatar, going back to that, we can't even get into any of that if they're not avatar, right? Well, it should be. If you want to be well met, okay, let's use that term. If you want to be well met in this business context, you don't just go in and try to take. That's obnoxious, right? And so you go in to give, but how do you give? You don't go and look at the FISBO and say something that is more appropriate for a probate. And you don't talk to a probate the way you would talk to an expired. So that's just a short little brief. Oh, you're all sellers, but I noticed you tried and failed. I'm sorry to see that. Let me give you this. Oh, you're selling it yourself. Oh, let me give you something that might buoy that effort, right? Oh, somebody died. I'm so sorry about that. If you do decide to sell it, I think this would be, information would be helpful to get you through the process. Here, take it. That's all I mean by recognize the context, right? Don't blow through it, right? If you come in overly aggressive and somebody just lost somebody, I mean, we still have trouble. Even though we recognize it with our scripts, we still have trouble. People are like, oh, how dare you call me after, because they're hurt, they're wounded, right? Like, they lost somebody. So it doesn't always work, even though it's intended to be well. But that context is everything. Don't be ignorant about obvious context, right? Yes, the disconnect from the result is the true giver, right? That's the true giver. So the disconnect from the result is really, 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 really to truly believe that you would help this person as far as you could without getting paid and without getting getting the deal. You have to, that's a concept that I highly recommend. You just buy into it, because I've taught people where I see them go to a certain beat and they sound so great giving. And then all of a sudden the person says something, they start taking, and you can feel it. You can feel it. So, because if I don't get an appointment, this person's going to fire me as their telemarketer. You know what I mean? Or if I don't get this, I'm going to quit this business. We get desperate. So the default is animalistic. It's not strategic. It's very tactical, right? So when the brain panics and it feels like it's not going to eat, quote unquote, it attacks, right? But if you can train it to just say, listen, strategically, you're going to eat plenty, but you have to stop attacking everybody, right? And let it come to you. Now, that is a hard thing to sell you on early on, but that's why having me as somebody who actually does this and saying, not only did I eat well, I ate much better, right? Per meal, meaning per deal, the average sale went up, the type of person I was dealing with, everything improves, because we don't want to be beaten up and taken from, right? I mean, in lieu of nothing else, if I have to sell my house and 5 takers call me up, I'll probably go with the guy with the best resume or who can talk the best. But that's in lieu of nobody coming along and saying, whoa, hold on. Before all these wolves attack you, why don't you just take this information from me? Why don't you digest this? Here's how the market's doing. Here's what's sold around you. And here's 7 things you ought to think about. Well, that's a pattern interrupt into the norm, right? And it sets up a competitionless lane that is so unique that a lot of times you win hands down. Not always, but a lot of times you win hands down. And enough times if you do it consistently over the 12 months. Cool? Good. Awesome. All right, gang, it's 8:00. You know what? I don't like to go over an hour on these things. So there it is. And I will see you next week. Thank you for being here live. I appreciate all of you, especially you West Coasters. Thanks for taking some time. See you later.